Okay, so this is something you took notes on Friday for today, but I never really got a chance to explain it. So these are your given explicit equations for an arithmetic sequence and then a geometric sequence. This is on the top of page 12. And I just had you follow along and write notes the best you could. And really all I asked you to do was remember that A1 is the first term in your sequence, and then D is the common difference. So if we know it's arithmetic, we're going to use this general formula for the arithmetic equation. So remember, the reason we do this is we're really just being given a list of numbers, and we know that technically this will keep on going. But what if we want a number way, way, way down the line? Well, I could keep listing these numbers, but what if they want a really, really big number? I know that we can use your TI Inspire and use the Control T option to look at a table, but if it's a really big number, there's got to be a better way. So that's why we like general formulas, and this formula is actually using a visual that's occurring whenever we're talking about a certain number in the sequence. So for instance, this is A1, that's your first term. This would be A2, A3, A4, and A5. So if I had a formula for this arithmetic sequence, I'd be able to plug in 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and I would get 14, 11, 8, 5, and 2. And this is what you were doing on page 11 of your notes, the page right before this. But let's find an equation for this. So if I asked you for a certain number, you'd be able to tell me any number in the sequence at all, no problem, very quickly, because we have a general formula to work with. So this is the first 5 numbers of an arithmetic sequence. We know it's arithmetic because we found that common difference over here by doing 11 minus 14, that second term minus the first term, and we got that common difference of 3. So we know it's arithmetic, so I know I'm going to use this formula. Now, whenever I need to find a certain number, I need to know where I'm starting. I mean, I can't just say minus 3. I need to know what the first number in the sequence is, so I know minus 3 from what. Otherwise, the fifth term in this sequence versus the fifth term in a sequence that starts with the number 1000 is going to be very different. So it matters where I start. That's why A1 has to be in this general form. Now, why n minus 1? What does that even mean? So if I'm saying a sub n, let's say I'm saying a sub 5. In other words, let's say I want the fifth term. Let's say this is my goal. I want to get a 2. Well, if I start at 14 and want to get to the fifth term, I would be doing that common difference between each term. I'd be subtracting 3 each time. Let's see how many times I do that for the fifth term. So from 14 to 11, I did minus 3. From 11 to 8, I'm doing minus 3. From 8 to 5, I'm doing minus 3. And from 5 to 2, I'm doing minus 3. So look, for the fifth term, term number 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, how many times did I have to take the difference? 4 times. So there's 5 terms, and the difference is going to show itself 4 times, or 1 less than 5. So to find the fifth term, I need to find n minus 1 differences. So the fifth term, I would need to find 4 differences. So that's where that n minus 1 comes from. For however many numbers there are, if I was finding the 10th term, there would be 9 differences in between those numbers. That's where that comes from, if you were curious. And then I've got to multiply it by how many, the actual common difference, then to find my fifth term. So let's see that actually working out. So if I want to find a sub 5, I'd put in, so a sub 1 we know is 14, and I'm getting this from that general form. Here, I'll move this out of the way. I'm getting this from here, so that's 14 plus n minus 1. Well, if n is 5, n minus 1 is 4. I'll just put in parentheses just in case. 4 times that common difference of negative 3. So let's do this in our head, and I can show you how to do it on the calculator. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. Plus 14 is going to be 2. Negative 12 plus 14 is 2, and that's the fifth term. That's what we wanted. Perfect. And if you want to see me do that in the calculator, so I would just, again, I'm just plugging it into the formula, 14 plus n minus 1, and you can even put n minus 1. So it was 5, so 5 minus 1, your calculator will do that for you, times that common difference of negative 3, and you'll get the fifth term, and that's what we wanted. There you go. So now if I said to you, I want the 60th term in the sequence, all I would have to do is plug in 60 for n. So I can show this in the calculator if you'd like. And that's why I also like the TI Inspire, is I can just scroll up and copy this and change what I need. So 14 will stay A1. That's going to be the first term no matter what. That's this sequence of numbers that we had over here. It starts at 14. That's how it was defined. That's what we're staying with. But what has changed now is I want the 60th term, which means instead of 5, when I wanted the fifth term, I'm going to change this to 60. Everything else is the same. That's why I like to copy and paste. And there you go. Instead of listing, this is only 5. Instead of listing 60 terms and then finding that this one works, or this one is the 60th term, I can just plug it into the formula and I'm done. The 60th term is negative 163 of this arithmetic sequence with a common difference of negative 3 and A1, or that initial term, of 14.